Hey everyone, this is Chuck Hogan, and welcome to Your Best Life. Well, also welcome to the Spanglish Network on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure that you rate and leave a comment. The app's completely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and all TVs 2016 and forward. So I know I say this every time we get together, but thank you for joining us tonight. And have I got a treat for you? Kara Payton is someone that I have known now. Oh my gosh, Kara, it's probably been a hot minute. I'm going to say it's been at least 10 years, at least. And Kara and I met in an environment of, say, contribution and volunteerism where we help support tens of thousands of people on a yearly basis to enhance their lives through transformation and the opportunity to be able to connect themselves and actually feel a different way, like literally to be able to find themselves and to grow beyond the current limitations of where their life was bringing them now. So why do I go there like that? Because this woman is a bastion of self-realization. Her faith, her spirituality, her connection to a higher source and power has given her the ability to be able to build rapport with people very quickly, but also to clearly reciprocate and understand with empathy and sympathy the human condition of what we all go through. And so she so graciously agreed to come on the show tonight and to share with all of you out there about some specific topics, but we kind of honed in on one, and that was breaking the promise of you with radical honesty. Now, this is unscripted, by the way. So we're throwing this topic out there where we can literally have a spirited conversation about what that means in today's world. So first of all, Kara, thank you, my friend. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I've been looking so forward to this and connecting with you. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for the invitation, especially for you. I would never have missed this. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, you're a darling. Thank you so much. So, Kara, when we start to talk about breaking the promise of you, what comes up for you, and how did that start to manifest itself as a topic of conversation? Because as I mentioned, everyone, you're a very deep person. So, what were some of the things, first of all, that you were experiencing that allowed you to get to this level?
Oh gosh. Um, I want to say that what you said first was just this deep layer. Definitely did not start deep. It was probably the surface layer. I could not. I remained my entire life on the surface. I lived on the surface. I thrived on the surface, and the facade, the mask, the whatever you want to call it, this avatar
Mm,
that we operate in and play with. I was a master. I was a master at getting you to see what I wanted you to see. If I went into a workplace or a social group or a relationship dynamic, I knew to the master level who needed to walk into that room, who needed to walk into that relationship, who was going to be socially accepted. And rinse and repeat, no matter what relationship was in my life, what friendship was in my life, what even if it was surface level, the
mm,
people that knew me best still only knew a micromanaged version of myself. So when you're talking about breaking the promise of me, essentially that's what it was, is this unsustainable crossroads was presenting itself all the time with me. And it started as chronic anxiety and fatigue, brain fog, ADHD symptoms, insomnia, everything. I mean, gut issues, all the way down to I thought I was a very, very unhealthy person.
right.
And then, lo and behold, when I'm starting to ask myself these questions as I'm reaching these pain points, I'm realizing that my fear of being honest about who I am, what I want, how I feel, what I think, any of that stuff, I viewed it as making these small promises, breaking these small promises to people. We almost had this agreement going. And the idea of breaking that promise of me and who I promised them I would be, whatever arrangement we had orchestrated, however it benefited them, my self denial benefited almost every relationship I had when we
Yes.
met.
Yes.
So breaking the promise of me was starting to uncouple myself the
Beautiful.
version of myself that I had shown up with.
That unadulterated honesty, and thank you for that vulnerability. That's huge. Um, and it's also the most liberating and cathartic and freeing exercise to go through when we have the realization. There's this ideology, especially in contribution environments, and you and I had this conversation once upon a time, where there's this expectation, as long as you're saying yes, that you're a good serving person. And we find this in religious sects as well. It's like it's not just one environment. It's literally, as the saying goes, when two or three are gathered here. Now there's this, if you want to call it, gravity that's created. There's this kind of this almost self-perpetuating cycle of expectation. And in order to conform, we will even, to some degree, go against our own values and belief systems, or even furthermore than that, we will actually try to find alignment in some skosh of, like, it doesn't necessarily feel congruent, but you'll push past it even to adrenal fatigue. So to your point, the dis-ease that comes from the stress of living incongruently while maintaining the facade of congruency.
Yes.
Right? It's like going, wait, what just happened? It's like going, you're faking it as you're making it. And I'm just getting it wrong real for a second, because we've all done this and we've excelled, for many of us, myself included, when you have the ability of being very chameleon like. It takes on, I mean, and it's almost like I don't want to call it a badge of honor, but I wore it proudly. I pinned it on. I had it on my shoulder bars. I had it on my sleeves, and you're kind of imbued with this view, right, from other people, and it comes with an energy as well. Like you're all part of the same tribe, and you're all marching to the same drummer, and it's like going, oh. I mean, it's like, wait, what are we doing here? We're up for 20 hours out of a day, and you're like going, yeah. And for the overachievers, it was 22, for real. Yeah,
For those of us who stayed up till 3 a.m.
I mean, you're like going, yeah, and what time you back? 6. So we go there for this reason. And many of you are like going, what are they talking about? Well, we're talking about sacrificing self in order to have the feeling of connection. And it comes at a very serious risk.
Mhm.
And it's one of those scenarios where this is why, even to this day, gangs exist, where there are clubs that exist. You can call it a biker club, you can call it a political club, whatever the case might be. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong. What I would offer is this opportunity. I'd love to get your take on this too, Kara, please. And that is, where do you find the synergy to make sure that there's congruence in who you be, so that you're allowed to live your life in a thrive ideology and not in the survival ideology, and settle for the breadcrumbs of connection when you're seeking so much more?
Absolutely. And what a what a perfect question, because when you're talking about the idea of choosing between finding our connection, we want true connection,
Hmm.
true intimate connection with people. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be known, we want to be felt face to face. We want that, but we will settle for attachment.
Yes.
We will settle for just being in the same group, being in the same church, being in the same relationship, being in the same home, being in the same family. We are born with two needs. One is inherent and one is inherent, but it's discarded. We're born with attachment first.
Yep.
And attachment is our survival. It ensures our survival. If we're born as a child, if we're not attaching to a caregiver, we do not get our needs met and we die. So our brain hardwires attachment with survival. However, we're born with another need. I call it the discarded need. It's the need for authenticity.
Yes.
Now, to scrub the language, because authenticity has become a huge buzzword. It's become like kind of be myself, or this is who I am. It's become fairly inflammatory and even used on social media, kind of weaponize or isolate yourself or pitch yourself higher than social
narcissistic, egotistical, right? It's like you're elite.
Yes. So to scrub the language, authenticity to your body, to your nervous system, simply means your body sends you a signal. I don't feel safe. I don't feel good. This feels safe. This feels aligned. I'm not sure about this. I don't have enough information. I feel
Mhm.
at risk. Things like that. Your body just
Yes.
sends you signals and you listen and respond.
Yes.
That's it. Authenticity. My body communicates to me and I respond to it.
Yes.
So
But you have to listen to it. And and
exactly.
and this dumbing down of the senses to exactly what you imparted, which was attachment syndrome. It's
Mhm.
like we need to feel safe. And sometimes that's bodies, a roof, some walls. Sometimes it's food or water. And there's 5 essential needs: air, water, food, shelter, and love and connection. And so please continue because this, I love where you're going with this. This is beautiful, by the way. Thank you for the clarity.
Well, this whole thing is for our benefit until it comes to what we've developed now in our social culture. We're not in tribal camps, or we don't live as we used to hundreds and hundreds of years ago, where our survival was kind of something that we had to preserve. We didn't really we had to be more involved with our basic survival.
Yes.
Now, most of us that are watching this don't have to worry about that. However, in so now our brain still, that is still the same brain though. So you take that brain that's trying to ensure its survival and you bring it into the 21st century, and now it's worried about the things that it considers death, which is social exile, just like you're talking about. So it's weaponized when you're talking about attachment, because attachment will win over authenticity hand over fist every single day, because your brain associates one with survival and not the other. If it can bypass these signals, and all it has to do is say, I don't feel right about this relationship. However, I associate survival and my preservation with the continuation of this relationship. So whatever I need to do to bypass those signals, I'm okay to suppress it. And enough
Yes.
suppression over time, we're talking about your body's alarm system being continuously clogged with suppression, avoidance, distracting, numbing, whatever we have to do to numb down that symbol. You hear it all the time. We have people that deal with chronic anxiety, but they're taking anxiety medication. What is that doing? It's taking the signal, the alarm in your body that signals to you that your alarm is working, and it's shutting it off.
Yep.
You take depression medication. We how many people do you know that actually take depression medication? RRI or SSR, what, oh my gosh, what is it? SS reuptake inhibitor drugs do not work.
Nope. Nope.
Depression medication does not.
Zoloft. Right.
They're still depressed. We're just
100%.
blocking the signals our body is sending us that indicate our body is working.
When your indicator lights on your car, check engine, low tire pressure, low oil, overheating, if you ignore all the sensors that have been put there strategically for what we will call the optimization of your engine and your vehicle, i.e., what God in the universe blessed you with, this body is your vehicle, and you ignore all of the warning signs, it will reward you with what you're willing to tolerate. And that's cancer, hypertension, diabetes. Stress is the ultimate life mitigator.
Mhm.
And in most instances, we're our own culprit. It's not that it's being imparted to us. We have allowed ourselves to have a frame of reference where now it controls us because we think everything's a saber-toothed tiger. The 10 million year old monkey brain is looking for what's going to attack us next.
Mhm.
And so the perception of, oh, there's a rustling in the bush over there. It must be a saber-toothed tiger in 2024. And you're like going, squirrel. And yet the fear factor, you have the same emotional rise, you have the same adrenaline spike, you have the reduction in dopamine levels, estrogen, progesterone, everything starts to drop like a rock. And we're wondering why people are in adrenal fatigue.
Mhm.
Yet Isn't it interesting, Kara, that so many people, when they get triggered with this emotional disparity, that they will quickly glom on to another environment. So it's like the old environment wasn't doing it for me. I need a bigger hit,
Mhm.
and it needs to be even more grandiose. It needs to be, and in fact, many instances, more polarizing.
Yeah.
Because what starts to happen is that when you are losing energy, you're just bleeding it off left and right. You can't retain anything. You're like a sieve. You're like a solo cup with holes punched in it, and you're like going, "Why can't I fill up?" And it's like, "Oh, it's real easy because your cup be broken." And sorry, technical term. And so when we start to look at this, it's like, okay, how do you patch the holes?
Yeah.
And it's by
That's
honoring and loving and appreciating even more of yourself, not less of yourself. See,
mhm.
these holes are the negating or mitigating factors where those are our beliefs and value systems that we're letting go of, that we're releasing and just sloughing off like they don't matter. And I'm like going, you are literally pulling pieces of you. You would no longer bust off a pinky or a pinky toe or, your left eye or your right ear and go, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm a Picasso painting in work, and it's like, okay, so are you the sum of all your parts or only the parts that you love?
Mhm.
Only
Yeah.
those parts that you think you respect. Because I'm going to tell you right now, when we see the polarization of like socioeconomic or political affiliation, and I'm seeing so much venom spewed, it's like, kill this person, F this person, I was like, oh my gosh, like wait, and you're Christian? Like, are you sure? Because wow, I saw you showing up a whole different way at mass the other day, that or at service, and it's like, is hallelujah just a word? Is amen? Or wow, it hurts my heart to say this because it's like there are people I know they're beautiful people. It's like, how did they get so confused, Kara? And I'm not saying from me, my model of the world, because maybe they're not confused at all, and I'm the one living in this psychosis.
Well, the interesting thing about, especially when it comes to identity politics and things like that, is, well, why do we call it identity politics? Because that group camp think, where you're living in a vacuum in an echo chamber of beliefs, is that you do feel on a survival basis like you belong to something. And
Yes.
so when you take something as unpa unparalleled as the pandemic and the amount of fear that it bore inside all of our
Oh,
souls, and then you pair it with all this unknown, and
yes.
then you pair it with what's being piped to us by the media, with what they want us to see, which is a focus on violence and aggression, and the world
Mm,
just coming upended. We were in a constant state of unknown, in a vacuum of our own belief system, where social media is piping in our own chambers of belief to us and
yeah.
almost gaslighting us with, kind of like, you take the gas from your tailpipe and feed it back into the car, so we're all high on our own BS. And then you want to stick us at home with something that could kill us, and then we have to vote in the same year. We're viscerally against one another because our beliefs are so completely opposite, and they're both sides are being contaminated to unrecognizable proportions.
Oh, it's uncanny.
But then you take the human mind and what it does with that, so
Oh,
desperately wanting connection because it's terrified, so desperately wanting to belong because it's terrified. We were all in our amygdala, trapped in a very, very, very survival based preservation routine.
mhm.
Every single behavior we have, every single word we speak, every single thing has an emotional reason behind it.
Yes.
We may not agree with it. I agree with probably a very, very, very less than 50% of, if you wanted to say one side or another side. There's the extreme on both sides, and there's kind of the middle on both sides, and then there's the true just apathy, I don't care middle.
Right.
I'm probably even a fraction smaller in one of those camps. And to this day, I still could look at every single extreme and every single non-extreme and understand they have a good reason to them why
Yes.
they believe, why they think,
Oh,
why they feel, why
a
they're saying,
million
why they're
percent.
doing what they're doing.
A million percent. Where I get concerned is when they're calling for the death of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Hang this person, go after, and it's both sides. It's not one side, it's both sides.
Right.
Um, the challenge that I feel beckons for most of us now is the lack of accountability. It's
Right.
like, if you screw up and you're remorseful, are you just remorseful because you got caught? Or are you remorseful? It's like, it's like a little kid. It's like, would they continue to do the behavior if they didn't get caught? And you're like going, interesting. Nestle Toll House cookies are good when you get permission. When you don't get permission, it's called taking them without permission. And so at some point in time, to your point, I can see in every single modality where they feel that they had a reason, a season, a purpose, an intent. And where it becomes so polarizing now is that in this belief system, that exceptions become warranted. Right? It's like, because had you done some of these things, or I had done some of these things, or we had had a track record, as many of these politicos do. Someone was asking me the other day. I have an uncle who was a former senator in the state of Maine, and so served 18 years, very as a servant leader in that ecology. And it's interesting. And I asked him, "Why aren't you running again?" He goes, "I didn't run the last two times. The constituents put my name on the ballot." He goes, "I wasn't running." Now, why do I go there? I said, that's a collective group of people who have respect for someone who they feel is standing for them. And I go, that's very interesting. Now, why is it so different now? I said, well, because the collective grouping is that, do you and I have a choice in who actually gets the nomination? And I go, not really, because the way the system is set up. And it really feels now, Kara, like there's this gamification that's starting to occur around all this. Like, who can get more social media likes? Who can put out the most venom? Who can raise the most money? I was like, oh, for the love of Pete, can't we just entice some amazing people who have massive success in other areas of their lives to come and serve? And the truth is, if we're being transparent, why would they want to? Why would they want their lives to be upended and to have their lives scoured with, more proficient than the most in-depth proctological exam you could ever experience in your entire life? And they're like going, wow, would you use the Hubble telescope to look back in time through their innards to see exactly when, at the time of conception, if they were a good person? Because really, isn't it amazing that people's reputation, and there's so many people who said, I thought about running for office, and then I realized it wouldn't be worth it.
No.
Wow.
No. I mean, how many good people with the right intentions have been raked over the coals and completely eviscerated by the machinery that is that system,
And
unfortunately.
when they've been telling the truth, when they've been serving for the greater good, right? And it's like, oh my gosh. So even when you're doing good, you're being judged.
Or chewed
And
up
it's
and
like,
spit out or
oh,
manufactured to be presented to the world as someone that you are not for the sake of canceling someone, for lack of a better word. I hate to use that. It's been so overused, but
no,
when they want someone gone, there is a protocol that is tried and true that they can always just turn and rely on. And they've done it hand over fist by whether you're a politician, whether you're somebody that dares to speak against them, whether you're somebody that
sure.
writes about somebody stirring up the wrong side of the mud. And when you're not going with the grain, you are dealt with. And we've seen this no matter which side you're talking about, we have seen people being dealt with.
Right. And the truth doesn't make a difference.
Mm.
The truth doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference if it's the facts are in front of you. And part of it too now is the entire ideology of entitlement and not accountability has become very mainstream.
Mm.
Um, I I look at life and say, at the end of your lifetime, you're going to have the ultimate accountability to your belief systems and whatever deity you espouse, and honor. And I go, so if that's Buddha, Christ, Allah, Vishnu, if you're Hindu or Taoism or Buddhist, said whatever your belief system is. And yet, I would also say that how about the accountability of while you're actually walking this planet?
Yeah. Well,
It's like, who are you?
the problem is
Who
truth
are
has
you? What?
it's become a very subjective thing, the truth has. And we do it to ourselves. We suppress the truth within ourselves, and then going out in the world, it's almost natural. It's almost the natural next step to suppress the truth out in the world. We're so practiced at it that it's not even really something that we use fine combs for anymore. It becomes very useless. We know that the agenda here is to become, whatever the goals of success. We kind of have that, more money, more people, more likes, more status, more whatever we're this ladder that we're trying to climb collectively at whatever cost. It's like however high you get on this ladder, it kind of depends on how much you're willing of yourself and your own personal values and belief systems are you willing to trade for another rung up this ladder. So truth has become transactional. It's become something you can barter with in order to kind of buy power in this world, which we're warned about in my particular lean of faith. We're warned that the king, the ruler, the god of this realm is that's his main goal: to steal, kill, and destroy. We've been 100%
Oh,
bought
the
in.
devil's alive and well. Yeah, I know the devil's alive and well, and it's interesting to see what poses now for faith, because it's not enough that for some people there's this ideology of justification by faith, and I go, that's great. Are you a good person? Are you a kind person? Are you empathetic? Are you compassionate? Because I know some people who I grew up with them and they claim to be agnostic, yet they're some of the most kind people on the planet. They'd give you the shirt off their back. They aspire to do what's right, what's real. And so at times I wonder, what is the currency that we're actually dealing in now? Is it connection? Is it faith? Is it love? Is it respect? Or are we dealing in currency now, to your point, where, oh, oh, okay. I apologize to everyone. It looks like I'm having some technical difficulty. Hang on one second, Kara. Can you hear me?
I've got you now. Yeah,
Let me. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can. I don't know what it was.
Kara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm going to keep my camera off just for the time being and see if that clears up a little bit. I apologize to everyone. We're having some internet connectivity issues where I'm located.
Well, no worries.
Oh.
I got the first part of your question, but I missed the second half. I'd love to hear you so I can answer more thoroughly.
All right. Are we back? How's that, Kara? Can you hear me now? I apologize to everyone. We're having some technical difficulty over here.
We made it pretty far though.
Hang on one second. Okay. I hope I'm back. Is this okay?
I hear you.
Are we good? Okay, good. Good. I'm so sorry. I have no idea what's going on with the Wi-Fi over here. No, my question is what do you say to folks right now, Kara, who are living in this space of like limbo? You know, they're trying to find some connectivity and meaning that's authentic and not this kind of, again, I don't mean to coin the term venomous, but it is literally like poison, some of the things that are being said. And instead of respecting differences and agreeing to disagree, it's really like this denouncing. I equate it to like being a samurai, where they're just like, I'm just gonna take their head. Like we're just gonna stop this conversation, and it's like they're gonna commit seppuku. No, I'm just gonna take their head. They don't have to, you know, do the honorable thing. We'll just go ahead and end it for them. And they're very gratified by this ideology of total obliteration because they're the enemy. And I go, whose enemy? Democracy? Like love, light, and happiness, spirituality, connectivity? Who's the bad guy here? Where's the devil?
Well, the answer to that question, depending on whether you're faith-based or not, is a very different question because, a lot of people, the best way, if I'm the enemy of man and I'm the enemy of God, my best method is to get people of earth to believe that I don't exist,
Hmm.
that I'm not here.
Right.
And so I'm hiding myself in all things, even things, the enemy knows scripture better than most of us do.
100%.
And so I would, if I'm the enemy, I'm sprinkling myself over all things and I am poisoning and contaminating all things. And so that's what we have to understand as people of faith. If that is what we subscribe to and that's the way we live our lives and govern ourselves, we have to understand that the people that we are dealing with, we are not, again, to quote scripture, we are not dealing with enemies of flesh and blood. We are dealing with spiritual realms. And we have
Yes.
to understand that people are being, I hate to use this word, but almost possessed
Yes.
by the spirit of these things and spirit of attack. And they're getting their needs met. If we're going to go from faith-based to even just right down to the science of human behavior, people with these behaviors, spewing toxin and poison at people, they're getting their needs met. It's meeting a very, very baseline need, but it's still meeting their needs. And
Hmm.
so if we can operate in a mindset to go spiritual and just see the other person as innocent and choose to turn the other cheek, choose to be the bigger person. I know that for some, that's going to be literally as simple as turning the other cheek and just not engaging. For
Right.
some, that's not going to be avoidable. That's something that it's a relationship that's important enough to you to hash that out. But for a lot of way, especially in my life, there were so many people that once I guess was public about my beliefs and it was like there's no more hiding this. Everybody kind of they've stuck my proverbial head on a stick and they're demonstrating it to the whole world what I believe in for all to see, and I was going through my own machinery of being canceled.
Yes.
Those that left, the abandonment, the band-aid ripoff where there was just
Oh,
mass exile in my life, that that took place. And at the end of the day, my brain thought I was going to shrivel up and unalive and
Yeah.
exist no more.
Yes.
Newsflash, much to my surprise, I made it out alive. Exile does not offend the rogue. And once I officially stepped out into that, and in that scary truth, in that defacing my own brain's desperate plea to just go back into the comfort zone, go back into attachment, go back into groupthink, go back into camp, go back into, you can't like go
No.
back on some of these things.
Well,
I
eh,
literally couldn't. The decisions were made for me.
yes.
I didn't
Oh,
die.
well, you and I, we've had this discussion, and it's interesting because very similar situation, and yet part of it comes down to another construct, which is for the longest time there was alignment because yes, and I chose to turn my reticular activating system to certain modalities and things like contribution, volunteerism, that it was for the greater good, and that as long as I lived in that modality, that I was a good person. And yet I realized that the cost, the currency, was my soul. The currency was my time. The currency was time away from loved ones. And yet I met you and many others that I love and adore and appreciate. And some are still inside some of these spaces and they choose to thrive there. Or I will say, because I ask how much growth are they actually receiving? And it really depends on the person. And so I have this philosophy for many of us, and I'm going to say you, my sister, and I included, we continue to grow irrespective of what the environment dictates, because our true calling is to serve a higher source and purpose and to be congruent with who we are.
Yeah.
In that growth, there's a tremendous amount of discomfort, and it requires a sense of dedication, forgiveness, and freedom. And it isn't without pain. And it isn't even without shame, because I went through that where I blamed myself as not being the best steward of my time. And yet I wouldn't be the person sitting in front of you today had I not gone through those lessons and learnings as well.
Yeah.
So I've learned to blame effectively, but to your point, there are 6 human needs that people are struggling to meet all the time.
Mhm.
And they'll do whatever they need to do to try to fill those needs.
100%.
Where have go ahead, Akira, I'm sorry.
Um, I was mainly going to say that, at the end of the day, how do I want to say this? The
You're with
truth,
friends.
the truth
No,
will set you
seriously,
free.
just always,
Yeah.
always. Yes, no. And I love that. And thank you for that. It was um and it has no bearing to the movie, but there is such thing as an inconvenient truth. And the inconvenience comes from actually honoring yourself.
Yeah.
Because we will build up this environment, this entire fortress of solitude that has who like-minded people in it. And here's what I found for me that set me free, and this is where I send you tons of love and appreciation and adoration as a friend, brother to sister. I choose to be around real people. I choose to be around authentic people, and I choose to be around like-hearted people.
Mhm.
I am no longer interested in like-minded.
Yeah.
Here's why. I traded my criticism and critical thinking for curiosity. And this one fundamental shift has allowed me to meet people where they're at, irrespective of race, religion, creed, political affiliation. Because they go, "What are you?" And I said, "A human." And they're like, "Okay, no, what are you, like Republican, Democrat?" And I said, "Neither." So I don't believe what's up with the labels. I said if any of us gets cut, we bleed red. As a Japanese Irish man married to a Nicaraguan, talking to my amazing friend Kara, it doesn't make a difference what part of the planet you hail from. You're human. And that means that you are entitled, imbued with certain things that you are allowed to live in. And that's like breathing, drinking fresh water, eating, having some type of shelter and love and connection. And we're all in pursuit of certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution. The only one that crosses over between the 5 essential human needs and the 6 human needs is love and connection. It is the single most powerful energetic exchange that human beings have. And we're addicted to energy. That's one of the reasons why wars are so polarizing. Because it's not the fighting, it's the energy that's created from the fighting.
Mhm.
And if people could experience the adulation of what euphoric love and connection feels like truly at a deep level, war would go away. Yet I will remind everyone watching this tonight, there's a sunrise and a sunset. There's a moon and a sun. There's these different cycles in our day, 24 hours. And yet I will also remind everyone there's no such thing as balance. Work-life balance doesn't exist. Our lives are seeking harmony and synergy. And to your point, Karen, thank you for this because it really is beautiful. What would you say to someone who's seeking to find synergy in their own life? I know that's like opening Pandora's box, but thank you for entertaining it.
Well, the constant revelation for me of what's even truer than this, every single day that I would give myself grace and compassion enough to show up as messy and unfigured out as I could, is every single time I uncoupled myself from needing to have something said about me, something, I let go and I would let go and I would let go and I would let go to the point where I loved Byron Katie's work. Byron Katie's work, it basically surrounds yourself with a constant questioning process, which for a little girl who used to be curious and busybodied and sing song all the time, happy go lucky, and constantly told to grow up, sit down, shut up, I was I was tethered by by my formative years just by being I needed to be trained to be less of what I was. And the core of who I am, the truth of who I am, that girl was just sing-songy, whimsical, laxative. She just took nothing serious and she needed nothing. She questioned everything. She explored everything. Everything was permissible. Everything was allowed to take up space or be messy or be clean or what. She just didn't have a lot of rules. And when I got back to that, it first involved me needing to have total radical acceptance for what was there, what I saw, regardless of whether it fit into a mold, regardless of whether I could jam it into something that made more sense. And it was very, very, very hard to do at first because I liked being figured out. It was my comfort. It was my armor, was that going through childhood trauma and, suppressing authentic emotions and being neglected and abandoned and all these things, my compensation tool was, how can I contort and shove and jam myself into these pieces that fit into the world better, according to who and according to what and according to who I value the opinion and perspective of whoever's connection I am trying to garner, whatever I needed to be for that. I was so good at being a contortionist that my best methods for undoing all that just involved simply sitting there with maybe an extra thought or an extra messy emotion and just sitting there with it without having to have a dang response without having to make it make sense, without having to pick it apart and analyze it and just like, what is that? Okay, can it be okay as is, just like it is? Can I just leave it alone? I'm depressed and I'm going to fight against depression, so I'm more depressed because I can't get rid of this depression. I'm in pain. I'm in emotional pain, and because I'm fighting against emotional pain, I'm feeling more emotional pain because I'm having emotional pain that I'm having emotional pain about.
Right.
It's just, can I just practice sitting with what is over and over and over? And that really began the tidal wave of my own transformation of just surrender, radical, unconditional surrender and acceptance of what's there and what I'm going to find.
Yes. That's beautiful. It's interesting when we start to look at where people are living. And there's this ideology, and it's all about the human condition and how emotions play into everything. To your point, everything we do, say, be, is in pursuit of to feel a certain way. And we all have this aspiration to feel these different emotions. And so I started developing this protocol with some of the folks I get to engage with on a regular basis. And it takes 2.5 minutes in the morning. You actually commit to yourself after you've had your moment of gratitude, peace, acknowledgement of a higher source, call it prayer, God, spirit, universe. And then I ask myself, how do I need to feel most often today? And I turn my time, energy, and attention to the 3 ways that I elect to choose and use as my filter of focus, because I know that through that cone, if you will, of acuity, that I get to impact my life and everyone I come in contact with that day. And then at the end of the day, I check in and I ask myself, how did I feel most often? And yet I also asked this other question, since we're all meaning makers. I said, what did that mean to me? What did it mean to feel that way today? And I don't judge it. I get curious about it. And it's like, interesting. Because did I have challenges that day? Quite possibly. Were they overwhelming? Not at all. In fact, I welcomed the exchange. It was very energetic and very spirited. I remained calm. The beauty is, I get to decide how I get to feel tomorrow. And so in this process, and thank you so much, as this has been so cathartic and so enriching to go through and learn more about your journey as well. We all have this ideal and this expectation as to who we're supposed to be. And I loved what you said. I found ultimate freedom when I let go of the judgment that I needed to be a certain way, that I needed to feel a certain way about something. And I go, okay, well, I'm feeling this way. I didn't elect to feel that way. So what was the meaning I was attaching to it that resulted in this? And it's like, wow. And when I got really curious about it, it was like, that's pretty dang cool. I also have found that in my own interpersonal relationships, I've been married to the love of my life for the last 36 years. And the blessing with Julie is that she's always inquisitive, always, and rarely, if ever, judgmental. And I asked her, I said, how did you get to be this way? And she just said, I had enough pain when I was little that I decided I was going to concentrate on feeling good and turn my energy and my focus towards loving, honoring, and appreciating myself and others. Sounds so simple and so beautiful at the same time.
Indeed.
Kara, how can people find out more about you and where they can connect with you? Because again, one of the things that Your Best Life, it's literally about living your best life, not just surviving life. How can people learn more about you? Where can they come? Where can they go? where can they check you out?
Well, I try to make myself my website, I'm so proud of it. I like to consider it a safe space for anybody that's just exploring, that may need a free resource, need a community, needs a practice, needs help. Carapayton.com is a great place, but as far as social media goes, I try to make myself pretty accessible to as many as I can. So I'm pretty Googleable. If you're a YouTube person, I have a channel. If you're an Instagram person, I'm goofing around off in there. If you're a Facebook, I'm pretty accessible. Just Google my name and whatever your favorite platform is, chances are you can connect with me there.
Oh, you're amazing. Thank you so much, Kara, for being on tonight. And I'd love to have you back because you and I could chat about this forever.
Absolutely.
And just know you are a force for good in this world. And thank you for being a world changer and a thought leader and a spirit guide to many people. You've touched a lot of hearts today.
Oh,
And I just so adore and appreciate you. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I love you so much. Thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to remind all of our listeners, if you enjoyed the show, remember, you can be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out at http://spanglishworld.ca for all the news and all the programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and definitely thank you, Kara.